This is ABC15 Mornings.
Nightlife in the Valley already busy. Just 24 hours after the state's stay-at-home order expires, the busy weekend expected to continue today as even more attractions open up.
And many people have a retirement plan in place, but what happens if you find yourself without a job because of COVID-19? An expert will share some tips with you and some steps that you need to take if you are laid off.
Plus, we have an absolutely phenomenal story of hope for you this morning. A Valley doctor lucky to be alive after a serious battle with coronavirus, walking out of the hospital after a 55-day stay. And that's just the beginning of it. We are going to have more on his absolutely amazing story. Ooh, it's giving me chicken skin just thinking about it this morning. So we say good morning to you as we come up at 6 o'clock on this Saturday. I'm NOHELANI GRAF.
And I'm Mark Thompson, working from home. Yes, just an incredible story about that doctor. You're going to hear about that just a little bit later on. Very inspiring as well. Now, a lot of businesses and a lot of activities are reopening this weekend, so people are keeping their eye on the weather forecast for sure.
Absolutely. And you know what? It comes down to running errands. So if you want to get out and run your exercises, this morning is the time to do it first. Just because it's going to be the most mild time of the day, of course, but it really makes a difference because we are warming up this weekend. So we're in the upper 60s, low 70s right now. We'll be in the mid 70s through that 7 o'clock hour. And even into 8 o'clock, we're in the upper 70s. But by 9, we're already warming into the 80s. It'll still be comfortable at that time with mostly clear skies and a few light breezes, but we will warm up into the upper 90s today. They are back and triple digits return to the forecast tomorrow. Also, we have a high pollution advisory in effect, so we're going to talk more about that coming up in just moments. But certainly, if you're going to be out and checking out some of the shops that are opening, make sure that you're parking under the shade and carrying water with you because you will need it today.
All right, thank you. Well, this morning, Arizona's stay-at-home order expired, meaning for the first time in a long time, a lot of things in the state are back open. And it'll likely lead to a busy weekend ahead. Places like Goodwood Tavern in Old Town Scottsdale already busy last night, along with similar nightlife scenes across the valley. And in Tempe, they are now getting the green light to open some of those night spots, even after we showed you this video of Casas in Tempe that's raising some eyebrows.
Myself, but pick and choose my battles as far as where I want to go. You're not going to find me in a shoulder-to-shoulder nightclub anytime soon.
Also allowed to open starting today, tattoo parlors, movie theaters, and the always popular summer attraction, Salt River Tubing.
Yeah, you definitely might need that for the weather today. Also, another big draw, some Arizona casinos reopening their doors, and the crowds have been showing up in a big way already. In fact, check out the lines that formed outside Harris-Auction Casino almost immediately yesterday. We're told thousands of people ended up making their way inside. Masks are not required, but they are recommended. As for social distancing, the casino says it put rules in place, but gamers that we spoke with say that quickly went in the other direction.
It was busy. In fact, it's packed in there. And there wasn't a whole lot of outside waiting of social distancing. It started out that way, but it didn't end up that way.
So what changes have been made there? The casino says that they have put more space between slot machines, and they're also limiting seating at blackjack tables.
And while never officially closed, places of worship are welcoming people back physically now that the stay-at-home order is lifted. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints plans to reopen 4 temples across Arizona for marriage ceremonies. Starting next week, temples in Gilbert, Phoenix, Snowflake, and Tucson will allow husband and wife sealings by appointment. There will be limited staffing during these ceremonies as well as fewer guests, and only one marriage ceremony will take place at one time.
But one reopening that Navajo leaders do not agree with, opening Arizona's biggest attraction this weekend. talking about the Grand Canyon. Navajo leaders say that the increased traffic up to the Grand Canyon could have negative consequences for their members as they try to flatten the curve of COVID-19. The Navajo president and vice president say that right now, essential businesses are only able to meet the needs of residents, and an influx of tourists would overwhelm their communities. In fact, this weekend's curfew on the Navajo Nation will be the strictest one yet. Grocery stores, gas stations, and other businesses are going to close, and essential workers are also being told to stay home until Monday morning. It speaks volumes about what they're dealing with. The Navajo Nation does have more than 3,600 confirmed cases and 127 deaths. More than 500 people there have recovered from the virus, but they're having trouble slowing it down.
The Arizona testing blitz is back for round 3, but we're also learning that it won't be the last time. The program now being extended. The Department of Health Services announcing that the blitz will be held for 2 more Saturdays, the 23rd and the 30th. As for today, there are more than 70 sites all across the state. Testing is available to anyone who thinks that they may have been exposed and could be infected with COVID-19. Well, in the wars against COVID-19, there is little to celebrate, but here plenty to cheer about. Dr. Carl Vidal is an East Valley physician who left St. Joseph's Friday after spending 55 days in the hospital. Vidal is one of the longest COVID-related hospital stays in Arizona. At times, he was near death, spending more than a month on a ventilator and 28 days in a medically induced coma and 16 days on life support.
This is the first day of the rest of my life. Obviously, going through something like this is going to change you as a person. As always, somebody who kind of got caught in the rat race and always living for tomorrow and not focusing on what's in front of you. And you never know when your last day will be.
Yeah, I know full well about that perspective. Dr. Vidal is expected to make a full recovery. His wife, also diagnosed with COVID-19, she was able, however, to self-isolate and recover at home. Just incredible story of recovery, inspiring.
I mean, you see all he had to go through that, his physical rehabilitation as well after so many days in that hospital bed. Boy, those hugs, man, they were life-changing right there. We are so proud of him and happy for his family. All right, let's get to that most accurate forecast now and talk about air quality. I said that we would go over this because we do have an ozone high pollution advisory in effect. So that means that kids, older adults, people who are sensitive like asthma and COPD, all should be limiting their time outdoors today, especially during the peak heat of the day, because the warmer the temperatures go, the worse our air quality gets. So if you're going to get outside, you want to do it early, right now. So if you're going to run, you're going to hike, you're going to bike, the roads are dry, the skies are clear. You just need to make sure that you are hydrating even if you are going early. Temperatures right now in the valley are comfortable. We are in the 60s in some valley cities, but in the Phoenix metro area sitting at 72 degrees, and just some light breezes have picked up now, going about 7 miles an hour. We're going to talk about the rest of that statewide forecast for you today and help you plan ahead hour by hour coming up in that full most accurate forecast.
All right, Nohe, thank you. Well, a local restaurant is making a comeback from COVID-19, and we're talking about JoJo's Coffee House in Scottsdale. We first brought you their story back in March when, after temporarily shutting down, they gave away all of their non-perishable food items to members of the community. Since then, they've done some remodeling. They've revamped their menu and say that they will be following the rules when it comes to keeping things clean and having customers 6 feet apart. Melton says that they are also coming back with a deeper appreciation for the community.
The future's bright. I think we're going to see a lot of good things coming after this COVID-19. I feel like it's allowed people to really galvanize and come together as a group of people.
Coffee House is opening its doors on May 22nd. It's 6:09 right now on your Saturday morning. Coming up, a tragedy strikes a local animal rescue community. How you can help a family that's in need of some support right now.
Also ahead for you this morning, a Phoenix man behind bars after police say he opened fire on his girlfriend. The latest on this developing story coming up after the break.
.611 breaking right now this morning. Scottsdale, the fire department responding to a fire alarm at Fashion Square early this morning. Crews found a small fire in the restaurant Hand Cut Chop House. It was contained by a sprinkler system and there are no injuries to report. And crews, they are working to clear that building at this time. No word on the amount of damage that it actually caused. Well, this morning we've got some sad news to report and a huge loss for the animal rescue community. Ann Watson, who started the Who Saved Who Rescue, as well as her partner Chris, they were killed in a crash in Idaho. They were on their way to Canada and they were transporting dozens of dogs from the valley to get adopted. So of those 48 dogs on board, 18 have been found alive. Sadly, 14 did not make it and another 16 they're still missing at this time. We spoke with two of Ann's friends who say that this loss is just unimaginable.
I just hope the community comes together for her because she was there for a lot of people and a lot of dogs.
Well, she was very dedicated to the dogs. That was basically her whole life. And she did a good job.
And it's still unclear what caused their truck to lose control. No other vehicles were involved. The couple leaves behind 2 young daughters, and we're also told that Ann also had some older children. Friends putting together an online fundraiser, and we have put a link to that fundraiser on ABC15.com. And developing this morning, a man arrested after he shot his girlfriend early yesterday morning. It happened near 69th Avenue in Thomas. Police say that the woman was taken to the hospital after she had been shot, and that's when officers were called. They later learned that she was shot by her 18-year-old boyfriend, Marco Beltran. He was arrested. No word on that woman's condition this morning. And we've got some new photos this morning from a hiker that was rescued in Sedona yesterday. Crews had to rescue a hiker who fell 20 feet into the area of Twin Pillars Trail. That's near Turkey Creek. So far, no word on that hiker's condition this morning. Wow, some dangerous conditions out there if you're hiking, so you really want to take precaution, especially in this summer heat as well.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things we say is when you get down halfway through your water bottle, it's time to turn around because you're going to need the other half to get back the way that you came. So you want to make sure that you're staying hydrated out there too. All the more reason also if you're a hiker to go out early. Now remember, we are still trying to practice social distancing, so be sure that you're giving other people on the trail a lot of extra room as you guys pass one another. But the views this morning are gorgeous, especially if you're hitting a peak somewhere. This is what you'll see as you look towards downtown Phoenix here. You can see we've got a light haze, and we're going to continue to see sort of that brown cloud as we move through the rest of the day because of that high pollution advisory that's in effect because of our ozone pollution. Here's how we warm up hour by hour though. We're in the 70s for a while through the 8 o'clock hour. By 9, we're in the 80s, so it's still comfortable and tolerable, and we'll stay in the 80s through 11. But by noon, right in time for lunch, we cross over into the 90s, and we will warm into the upper 90s for today. So right now, all the more reason to enjoy these temperatures. We're sitting at 65 in Queen Creek this morning, 67 in Chandler, 65 in our Deer Valley neighborhood, 66 in Surprise. So now would certainly be the time to take that walk or that bike ride around the neighborhood. It'll feel good right now. We're also seeing some 70s mixed into our south. In Gila Bend, it's sitting at 70 degrees, 70 out in Yuma as well as Bullhead City. In Sedona this morning, you're just short of 60 degrees, so nice and cool for you. Payson, cooler still, sitting at 52 degrees, and Flagstaff is starting the morning off in the 40s. You've actually cooled by 2 degrees over the last hour here, but you are still warmer than we were this time 24 hours ago by 3 degrees in Flagstaff. Sedona 4 degrees warmer. We're just a little bit warmer here in the valley. Window Rock is the only place that is actually colder to start this morning than it was yesterday. But check out the warm up across the high country. We're mostly going to see highs in in the 70s, 79 in Show Low and Heber, 74 in Flagstaff. Page, Window Rock, and Winslow all warming into the 80s. Same for Sedona, Prescott, and Payson warming into the 80s today as well. And then our hottest temperatures will be along our western border. Bullhead City crossing into triple digits today. We've got upper 90s heading south and across southern Arizona, 97 in Casa Grande. Over in the East Valley, we're looking at a high of 99 in Chandler and Gilbert, so coming close to that triple digit mark. Same with Ahwatukee. A little more mild in Paradise Valley, warming into the mid 90s. Same with Fountain Hills and Apache Junction. Carefree, one of the spots that will stay in the upper 80s for today. Over in the West Valley, we're looking at highs in the upper 90s in Deer Valley, Peoria, and Surprise, topping out at 98. Same temperature in Litchfield Park, and a degree warmer across those southern West Valley cities. Now, high pressure is in control. That's why we've got the warm up happening. We'll have just a few high thin clouds across the state today, but we're otherwise sunny. Then our next low pressure system comes in thanks to some a disturbance that's moving north of us up in Utah. That's going to drop our temperatures. We'll stay dry, but we will enjoy the benefits. So our breezes will pick up. Even though our temperatures climb into triple digits over the next 2 days, we get breezy on Monday, strongest winds on Tuesday, and then the benefits come out on Wednesday as we drop down into the 80s across the valley. That's going to be lovely. We'll talk about how long those 80s will stick around, though, in that 7-day forecast coming up a little bit later this morning.
I'm your smart shopper, Chelsea Davis, working from home, and I'd like to say thank you to Juan Trujillo and all the other viewers out there who wrote to me asking me to test out the Arctic hat to see if it's bull or no bull. Ask and you shall receive.
Introducing the new Arctic Hat, the evaporative cooling hat that keeps you 20 degrees cooler and has a built-in UV barrier that reflects the sun's heat and UV rays.
The video goes on to explain the hydro cooling technology. That water activates the evaporative lining to help cool faster, and they claim it blocks over 99% of the sun's harmful rays. I don't have a way to test that from home, but I can test this next claim.
Look, this man's head is a scorching 102 degrees. But with Arctic Hat, he's a comfortable 78 degrees. That's over 20 degrees cooler.
After sitting outside for a few minutes, my forehead came in at 102 to 103 degrees. Then we added water to the inside of the hat as instructed, and we tried it again. After a few minutes, my forehead temperature remained the same. But the top of the Arctic hat was between 66 and 68 degrees. Chilly. And when we took the hat off, we took the temperature of the top of my head. It came in around 98 degrees. We decided to wear the Arctic hat out on a walk. After about 30 minutes, my forehead temperature was around 93 degrees, much cooler than the first test. When I took the hat off, the top of my head was 85 degrees, almost 15 degrees cooler than the first test. Just note, you are putting a wet hat on your head and it's going to ruin your hairdo. I bought mine on Amazon for $19.99, and I'm going with Noble. Though it didn't lower my temperature by 20 degrees, it was close, and I definitely felt cooler. For more information on our test, go to abc15.com/smartshopper.
So a lot of us have an ideal age of when we plan to retire, but what happens when you're right about ready to do that and then you lose your job? That is the reality for thousands of people in Arizona and tens of thousands across the country. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning with Graham Williams from Optimus Retirement Group. Graham, so glad that you're joining with us. This is such an important topic.
Yes, thank you so much, Nohe.
Okay, so let's start with what happens if you are laid off and you were getting close to retirement? Let's start there. What do you do first?
So the government's taken a lot of steps to try and help people that have lost their jobs. But if you're close to retirement, I think there's several other steps you could take to try and bridge the gap. So we can discuss those. And I want people also to remember that, you know, we're optimists about this type of thing, and we believe there are lots of things you can do. So don't despair. There's lots of things you can do if you're careful and you plan.
Those protections are in place, and people have been down about it because there are a lot of people still waiting for their money. It's been a struggle. Right. So you're saying one of the important things to do on your own is look at your savings.
Right. So in addition to the things like applying for unemployment, we want to inventory our savings. Now, remember what that means. It's savings, checking, brokerage accounts, annuities, 401ks, IRAs. Look at all of your financial assets. Look at your home equity. Look at everything you have to try and figure out how much do I have. And then if you've done any planning or you have some questions about this, you might want to say, well, what would I need to retire? And so you might find, well, I'm really close. And maybe I lost my job, so I need some kind of a plan to bridge between now and retirement.
What if you're starting to get nervous about what your current spending is and you start looking at that retirement fund?
Right.
Is it okay to tap into it?
Typically, if you're under 59 and a half and you take a distribution from your retirement plan, you have to pay a 10% tax penalty. So you pay ordinary income tax plus 10%. So it's very significant. With this year, they've changed that rule so that you can take up to $100,000 out of your retirement plans and not pay the penalty, okay, if you're under 59 and a half. If you're over 59 and a half, there is no penalty because that's what the funds are for. But this is an important point. If this is a very serious thing to do because it's going to, down the road, deplete what you had planned for retirement if you're a little early. So that's a very careful decision to make. Another option, though, let's say one spouse lost their job and you're a little tight for funds, but you still have some cash flow. Another thing in the CARES Act you can do is take out a loan against your 401k. This is where, and up to $100,000, which is double the old maximum. So you take a loan where you're paying yourself the interest on your money, right? So you set up a loan, maybe say at 5% for 5 years. You get a big chunk of cash. You don't have to pay tax on that cash, and you're paying yourself back. This is what I think is more strategic for someone who's still working. Maybe you're in your 40s and retirement is a ways off. Mm-hmm. If you take that hit and you pay the tax on that money now, you can't get it back into that tax deferred account. So the loan is a very strategic move. And I think people should look at these kinds of tools. And these are the kinds of things, honestly, that planning helps us to figure out, is this appropriate for me or not, given my situation?
Now, what do we do about Social Security? What do we do with that?
So Social Security is a key part of most people's retirement. So we want to evaluate that. And on our website at optimistretirement.com, we have tools to help you figure out what is my expected Social Security, what is my full retirement age. Most people think 65, but it's actually 66 and 67 now, depending on your date of birth. Now, if you can take your Social Security early at age 62, and most people are aware of that. What they don't understand is that you're going to get a reduced payment up to 25% less than what you would have gotten had you waited to your full retirement age. The other issue here is that if you return to work, even part-time work, all you have to do is make a little bit more than $18,000 a year, and they begin to phase out your Social Security because you've got earned income. So this is a really big decision, because what you could be doing is locking in a lower lifetime payment, and then if you start working again, you don't get any money at all. So this could be a really significant thing. This is another example of an item you need to sit down and do some planning about, run the numbers, and talk about the implications of getting a part-time job or returning to work or fully retiring.
It's all very sound advice, and I love the optimism. That is why you're called Optimist Retirement.
Thank you.
Graham, thank you so much for your time and for your sage advice.
Thank you, Nohe.